Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining our Pro Talk. Just as a headline, if you haven't come to see Triumph and LoadPay at booth 37301, we're giving away coolers, great swag, but let's get into the value add of today. Our topic is lessons from the road, combining experience and technology. And I'm joined with two of the best experts in the industry. So pleased to welcome Chad Boblett from Rate Per Mile Masters. If you're not a member of his Facebook group, check it out. And the one and only Sammy Lloyd of Lloyd Trucking and Make Sense YouTube. I'm David Viehler. I'm the president of LoadPay, and so glad to have known these guys for a couple of years, been all over the country with them, and get to bring the knowledge and experience that they have forward. Yeah, real quick on Triumph and LoadPay by Triumph. You know, we were up here last year talking about some of the things that we do, but we are all-in-one platform for your factoring, for your insights, banking, fuel cards, equipment finance, and insurance. We've been doing this for over 20 years. We've built great relationships across the industry and are thrilled to be able to serve our community. All right, gonna ask a couple questions of the audience. Who thinks there are too many mobile applications out there in the world that to use to run your business? All right, well, 78% of our respondents this year that we went and asked said, hey, it's too many, it's too complicated, we gotta figure out how to make this easier. Who thinks that they get paid too slowly by their shippers or brokers and that getting paid faster is a priority? All right, mixed hands on that one. All right, well, 78% of our 300 respondents said that getting paid faster was important to them. And then last but not least, would it be better to have an all-in-one platform to manage your business, to be a roadside financial companion? 80% of our respondents said yes. We're really, which really helps inform, right, what we're thinking about and how we're moving forward in the future. You know, real quick on Triumph, last year we paid 150,000 unique carriers. From invoice submission to payment, we're down to 30 seconds. So you use your phone, you take a picture of the invoice, you upload it to us, money is in your account, is now 30 seconds. And we do that 24/7 by 365. So when banks close, Triumph is still open. And we moved $40 million on weekends and holidays because while we are a bank set up for trucking, for owner-operators, for small carriers. And so we're able to move money whenever it's needed. So let's jump into the lessons from the road. All right, these are two fantastic photos. Chad from 2012, Sammy from 2003. I can't get over Sammy's picture there. I mean, that's old school. That's a great smile. Can't be talking, you gotta be talking to someone good on that.
Oh yeah, it was.
All right, so these guys have been doing it for a really long time. And I think what's really special about them is they've been sharing their story online, stories from the road, best practices. I've learned a lot from both of them. And now we get to learn from them today. The very first lesson that we wanted to ask them was, hey, new trucking companies that are going to get started in 2026, right? We've seen rate improve in the first quarter. Are they having a head start than when you guys were getting started? And Chad, you know, you've spent years and years helping carriers get started with rate per mile. You know, what advantages do you see for carriers starting today versus maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago when you were getting started?
Made in the shade. It was first thing comes to my mind. Because when I got my authority, you didn't, you know, the internet. You'd have to use the internet to figure out a lot of things. So if I thought about getting my authority today, like one of the things I used to preach to people about getting their authority is just pay someone and they could get it for you. There's different services out there where you could just give them $500, $600, $700 and they would do all the work for you, go through all the channels to do it. Now with AI, as advanced that is, I mean, it would be, now I turned that advice into just do it. You can do it yourself, and it's just as easy with AI. I mean, you have that, and there's a whole lot. So that, and I can go on. What would you say, Sammy?
What's the question again?
About advantages with today versus whenever we first got started.
The advantages are huge. Is this working? Where do I put this thing?
Right.
That's my first time holding one of these. Let's see. Let's go back to 2001. Me and my brother, we got a load up in Jersey, and it was after hours. We got a phone number to our next pickup. And if you guys have been around for a while, you know an old phone book. You could go to the back and you search a number. From there to tell you the name of the company. From there you could find an address. It was after hours. We wanted to get there to the pick. So that right there is what's changed. You know, now we got GPS. I mean, right here on the phone, we got all that stuff right there. That's one of the biggest things is all the technology that's changed from then to now. You know, that's just my favorite story.
Well, when you said GPS, I'm probably the first generation, and the reason why I say this is because I'm one of the first generations to ever succeed in trucking without ever using a road map. I know a lot of people's looking at me like, you can't do that, you got to be able to know how to read a map. The reason why I say that I'm probably the first generation is because I used before Garmin had this GPS, or maybe they did, but my first GPS that I used was Microsoft Streets and Trips. I don't know, they don't even make it anymore.
No.
And it was like a GPS thing that plugged into the USB, the side of your laptop. And y'all saw the truck that was up there. I forgot what kind of Peterbilt that was, but it's like the big the big wide Peterbilt. And I would have to put my laptop all the way over in the passenger side seat because that was the only place for it. And I'd have to use the seatbelt to hold it in place. So I'd be going down the road. I kid you not, I'm going down the road, and I'd have to look at the laptop to see where I'm supposed to make my turns. And TMC would pay you. I'm getting off a little bit off topic, but TMC would pay you based on the lower you kept your out-of-route miles. So I would set this GPS, Streets and Trips, to give me the lowest mileage from point A to point B. And I'm a rookie driver, you know, the first time out there doing it. But I was bound and determined to get, you know, the highest percentage of pay, and the way to do that was have lower out of route. And Streets and Trips, you know how like an exit, if you go off the exit and then go back onto the ramp, it would cut off that little turn that went like that.
Wow.
So that's how picky this GPS would do things to me. It would make me take an off ramp just to re-get on the ramp. I'm like, well, that was silly. I got to fix this setting. But anyway, I made it through it.
That's funny. That's funny.
It sounds like it has gotten much easier today.
Oh yeah.
Leaps and bounds easier.
I did some Dukes of Hazzard roads in Missouri. The reason why I call it Dukes of Hazzard roads, you know how Dukes of Hazzard always had those dirt roads and stuff?
Yeah.
I discovered some of those dirt roads in Missouri.
Well, Sammy, you know, as you talk on your YouTube channel about building a business from the ground up, right? From someone who's just getting into business, you know, what operational or financial decisions, right, do you think new carriers should be making early that give them the advantage to be in business a lot longer?
That could be answered a couple different ways. Yeah, if you're just no money in the bank, you got good credit, you're a company driver, I'd say save your money. Run the wheels off that truck, save your money. You need capital, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. And if you don't have that in the bank, you need lines of credit. Because one thing I've figured out is you're going to have those unexpected expenses. You know, 2 weeks ago, I just put a new actuator on my truck. It gave me no signs. It just gave out. So I wouldn't, if I didn't have the funds there, I'd be sitting at a truck stop somewhere just begging.
Yeah.
What was after that one?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you were looking for financial tools, right? You have the financial planning.
Yeah.
What kind of financial tools or insights do you think are helpful for a carrier?
Plenty of capital to start.
Yep.
You need a national tire count. You need a good fuel card, and you get this stuff for free. A lot of people, they lease onto a carrier, say Landstar or somebody like that, because they give all these tools. You know, and I talk to a lot of people that's coming into the industry new and they want their own authority, and I'm like, you don't have to lease onto these big carriers, you can get it yourself. A lot of people don't know that. So I share those tools, I share the information. It's just different tools that I've found along the way that helps me, you know, stay rolling.
Yeah, that's super helpful.
Let me tell you, tools, when it comes to that type of stuff, early on, mistakes that I made early on that I wish that I changed and I did different, that I would do different now, is and the reason why I played these games is because my wife dealt with me, and and I put her through the torment of collecting all this information from this credit card, from that credit card, from this other statement, and putting it all into one Excel spreadsheet. Data was very important to me at the very beginning, but I made it seriously complicated for my wife to have to gather all this data from different points. And I was doing this so we could collect miles and take free trips to Japan because that's where my wife is from. So she understood that part, but to do it over, I want you, and if I was giving the advice to anyone, all the data to be in one place and to coming to you in one place. It's kind of like having a CEO tools with the same thing. You know, a CEO of a company, do things the way the big companies do. CEOs don't play mileage games, you know, and points game with credit cards. And that's advice. The reason why I mentioned that today is because I used to give that advice. I used to say, oh, you can get free trips if you use these credit cards with all these bonus miles. No, I take that back. Don't be playing that game. The data is so serious. It's too serious to be playing games with. But go ahead. I know we're limited on time.
Oh no, I mean, I think that's super important to think about. It's like, how are you managing your cash? How are you getting those insights? And you know, Chad, for you, as we think about the second lesson we want to share, right, is searching for those financial tools, the productivity. Do credit cards make sense? How do you evaluate? Whether it be a fuel card, a factor, like how do you figure out what the right tools are for your business, and then how do you coach other people around picking the right tool?
Well, fuel card is going to come. Fuel card, I'm going to make sure it is giving me the most savings, and that's I've put fuel cards to the test on this a long time ago, and that's kind of changed over the years. There was at one time. Nastic had the best fuel card, and since then there's several. Now it's like a top tier level, and so Nastic's up there, and there's several other top tier level fuel cards when it comes to that. But that when it comes to fuel card, that's what I would say. What else was a part of that question?
Or just how do you evaluate which is a good fuel card, which is a good product, which apps do you use?
Well, okay, apps. Well, apps. If I can put all the data into one place, if I can collect as much data as I can. The one thing that I want to do with my data, and the reason why I want it to be in one place is so that I'm really big into using AI tools. I pay for the advanced version of Grok, ChatGPT, and Gemini. If whatever financial service I'm using, credit card, whatever that system is, and I'm able to collect all that information and upload it to AI, I can ask AI anything about my business and come up with the answer once it's been uploaded to that AI platform. So that's what I'm looking for. Who's going to give me the most data? The ring that I have on my finger. This collects 50 different metrics about my health. And I'm able to download that metrics and ask ChatGPT, why does my big toe hurt? And it might tell me, well, you're not sleeping good. I love collecting data like that.
Well, that's awesome, Chad. And Sammy, I've heard examples of how you use technology to change your whole workflow. You talk about it on your YouTube channel. Can you tell us a little bit about how you find that edge?
I got one example, and this one it knocks out a couple birds with one stone. Last year, I'm gonna be a little vulnerable with you. Last year it was a tough year for me, and I've trucked more in the last 6 months than I probably have in the last 3 years. But it's probably about fall. I was in a bond, and my insurance was coming due. And my insurance is kind of picky. They do not like the money not to be in there when they draft it out. And I had a load delivering on a Saturday. And since I factor with Triumph and I have LoadPay, I delivered that load on a Saturday, and I wasn't worried about that late payment because I invoiced my load, I invoiced it, paid my fuel bill, and then selected LoadPay, and I was paid within 5 minutes. I was paid before I left the property. So what that meant for me was I paid my insurance on time. So, I mean, that right there is just, you're knocking out a couple birds with one stone there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we were able to do it. 5 minutes compared to 30 seconds sounds like they're not moving fast enough these days. But.
Well, it might have been faster. I wasn't sitting there refreshing, so
okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I done that. I got out, shut my doors, came back, and money was there.
And how important was it for the insurance to get paid on time?
My insurance company is pretty, they're sticklers.
Uh-huh.
They're very picky. And that's for a good reason, because without naming names, every year my insurance goes down because they're very particular. They want a certain amount of the type of driver. They want a certain type of equipment. They want a certain type of history.
Yeah.
And while everybody's insurance goes up every year, mine continually goes down.
That's great.
And my guy told me, he said, we do automatic drafts, unless you pay in full. listen, I'm not a millionaire truck driver, you know what I'm saying? So put me on payments. He said, if you was to miss one of these payments, he said, they'll probably overlook it. But if you get in a habit 2 or 3 times, they're probably going to cancel the insurance. So I've been with them since 2018, and I ain't been late once. So that's how important it was for me.
So you've earned their loyalty, and they've earned your loyalty.
Yeah.
And having the money there makes is incredibly important for that. All right, Les.
I want to say something about the insurance. That's usually in my Facebook group. I'm reading constantly, horror stories. And that's usually the final straw before a carrier goes out of business is whenever they say, I had to do this load. I knew it wasn't going to make me money, but I had to do it because I needed a certain amount of money to pay my insurance. And to a carrier, that's the death. That's the death whenever you're doing a load, and it's not going to be profitable, but you just need that extra $1,000, $2,000 just so that you can pay your insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, and then getting that money and getting it to that insurance company, the part you were talking about, yeah.
Absolutely critical. Lesson number 3, truckers should embrace technology and use their experience to make it work for them. Chad, when you talk about this, you talk about data, you were sharing a bunch of great stories with me yesterday, but then also the instinct and your gut. How do you bring the two of those together to make the best decisions for your business?
Embracing technology. I use the AI products. I use it all the time. If it's definitely going to be a part of the future. If you're not using it, you learn so much from using the AI that's available. I know a lot of people's like, oh, well, that's AI and you should brush it off. No, you want to embrace it, use it. You can learn so much from it, especially if all of your money coming in and all of your money coming out is going to one place. Like if we're talking about Triumph, and that's what we're talking about here. If it's a place where all your money can go into one place, and it's a banking system, all your money can go, all your expenses can go out of one place. And by uploading all that data into, you get it in a PDF form or an Excel form from Triumph, and then you can put that into one of the AI products. My favorite is Gemini. This is what I would use, or Grok. That's the next favorite. Making pictures, funny stuff, ChatGPT. But if you were able to upload that stuff into Grok and tell me the most important thing about my business that's going on, you can give it a command. Say, give me 5 best advice you can give me as an owner-operator carrier or whatever to help me better run my business. This is all my money coming in. Or here's the question that I would want to know. Am I doing better than average? Or are there other people doing better than me? Or am I doing worse than they are? To me, that's important. And that's how I would use it.
Oh, that's great, Chad. And Sammy, we're thrilled to have you here today. Last time I saw you, you were in California. You're crisscrossing the country all the time. You talk a lot about not just driving the truck, making sure you're on time, running a good front end of the business, service level of the business, but you talk about not falling behind in the business of trucking, right? How do you make sure you do that?
I bought a truck, and then I realized I'm a business owner. I'm not a trucker no more. Bottom line is you got to keep up with your numbers. I love how he talks about data. He's a data geek, I'm a data geek, but it's kind of separate. He's more of a data geek on the business side. I'm still old school on the business side. I do not trust apps, servers. I'm my own TMS. I write it all down and keep the books. I got all of that stuff because I love data, because you collect enough data, it starts telling you a story. How many gallons of fuel you're burning per trip, where you're at, what's the elevations, what's your MPGs, and you start seeing those MPGs go down, or the gallon per mile, which a lot of people don't talk about that. You start seeing those numbers come down or go up, something's going on with the truck. So I love that data part. The other data part I'm real big on is I've got a wind app. I like to see where the wind's blowing. I got an elevation app. I like to see what the elevation is. If I'm cruising down the road and it feels like I'm pushing against a wall, I'm already knowing what's going on. I know the wind's coming at me, to the side of me, behind me. I'm going up a grade. A lot of people don't use that. They're like, man, yesterday I got 10 miles a gallon. Well, you was going downhill.
Yeah.
Today you're going uphill and you're getting 5. You got to know the data. That's where I'm a data geek, is the operations, because I'm real big on fuel savings. If I could just adapt the data side on the business side, then I'd probably go to the next level of trucking. But I'm just not there yet.
And what about the back office side of the business? Like making sure paperwork's in order, taxes are in order. Like how do you work on that?
I keep the taxes. Like I said, I'm old school. Pen and pad, hardcore, hard books. Re-ask that question. My memory just went blank.
How do you manage the back office? We just talked about it when we were over at our booth. We talked about potentially hiring people to work the back office, managing all the paperwork. How do you take care of that?
Well, I factor Triumph, right? And I talk to people, and they're like, why do you factor? You don't need that. And I'm like, yeah, I do. They say, why? I say, because I can't afford to pay $5,000 to Miss Susie to take care of all my accounts, receivables, and stuff in the back office. Because what I realized is before I started factoring, and I'm going to be honest with you, I used to be against factoring. I used to think, I put out a video years ago. I said, factoring's a thing of the past. But what I found out is when I started working more and more brokers, you get to 10, you get to 15, you get to 20 brokers. Here's what they do different. Everybody invoices separately. They want a different style invoices. They want it uploaded in an app. They want it emailed. They want it transflowed. They're different ways. And I started factoring, and then I found out what's really easy is I can run 100 different brokers and invoice one way. And the best part of it is I don't even have to type up an invoice anymore. So I can't afford to pay, like I said, Miss Susie $5,000 a month, take care of all my back office stuff. I invoice a load, I submit it, I'm on to the next one, and I'm not worrying about who's paid and who ain't, because how much time is that going to waste?
Yeah. No, it's a great call out. And then it's also when you're not on the road, you don't have someone on salary all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And that's something to keep in mind as well. All right, lesson 4. Trusted partners are helping fuel the future of trucking. How do you find the right one? Chad, you talk a lot about partners. What are some of the key signs that you look for to determine if a partner is genuine, trustworthy, and will follow through on their commitment to you?
We'll take out the fuel part. Trusted partners, I'll focus on just that part. Well, and that's the thing that I've done with Rate Per Mile Masters, the Facebook group that I'm most well known for, and the people that along the way the companies that I've partnered with. I've only partnered with I do really good at finding the absolute best companies to partner with, and then I promote those companies to my group. Usually those companies are rewarded because my following trust whoever I pick to partner with, and I'm looking for companies that let's use Triumph for example. Before I partnered with them, I was on the phone talking to Triumph for maybe 8-9 months before I ever pulled the plug and did it. I vetted them several different ways, talked to other people that was using them. I talked to other factoring companies. I found out what the cons were. I guess the winning strategy that got me to go to Triumph then versus the other factoring companies is Triumph for factoring. You want, I don't want to say names, but there's some factoring companies. That are owned by a broker. Do you want a broker managing your money, or do you want, Triumph is a bank? Do you want a bank managing your money? That kind of makes common sense, right? If someone that's going to be managing my money, I want, it seems like a bank should be smarter at that. And with that being said, the other thing that was a deciding factor for me is Triumph is a bank, and they are regulated like a bank. They can't do funny stuff with you and up and change your contract and put certain wording in your contract that's going to cause the problems later on. And see, one of the things, my social media group did, and I don't want to take up too much of the time, but one of the things my social media group, it changed. I feel like, unless y'all know something that I don't know, but I feel like my social media group actually changed factoring altogether. Factoring used to be horrible for carriers. It was like you got conned into the factoring, and then you started discovering all the problems. Well, when I looked at Triumph, people were not having those issues, and everybody was against all factoring because of those issues. But whenever I got with Triumph, nobody had those issues. anyway, it gets a little bit off the subject.
No, I think that's really helpful, and I think one of the things that you and I've talked about in the past is the amount of time someone's been in business, right? And evaluating based on track record, right? Looking at value creation for the carrier versus, right, value creation trying to scale quickly, right? And the risks associated with that. So, Sammy, you've worked with a large range of service providers. Are there any red flags or yellow flags that you would caution people to look at when choosing a partner?
I'm not really sure about red flags or anything like that, but I can tell you what I do. First, as I network, I asked around. I talked to people. What are you using? And a good key indicator is if somebody's got what you want, they know how to get it. So I take that, and I ask around, and then I go testing and tuning. I like to experiment. And I give you an example, before I started factoring, I got to looking around at all the different companies. Half of my friends said Triumph, half of my friends said other people. I got to looking at it, and Triumph won me over because they are a bank. They're publicly traded, and I was like, all right, that means there's more scrutiny to their books.
Yes, there is.
And they've been in business for over 20 years. So I've been with Triumph since. Another example is my fuel card. And all my friends have got different fuel cards, but I test and tune, like I said. I've used 5 or 6 different fuel cards, and they all got their peaks. The worst one I seen showed on the Alps, it was lower prices. It would be NASDAQ and all these other big competitors about 2 or 3 cents. But on the backside, when they would what they called remittance, they would charge you, depending on how many gallons you get, anywhere from $4 to $12. So I started crunching numbers on that, and I was like, all right, on this amount of fuel, and I can't remember the exact numbers for this example, it was like 4 or 5 cents more, or 6 cents more than the next card that I had. And I thought, wow, I used this card because I was saving 3 cents, but on the backside, it's actually cost me another 3 cents more. So, I mean, there's a lot to test and tune on things like that with fuel cards. A lot of them's got membership fees, monthly fees, swap fees. You got to find the ones that don't have any of that stuff.
Lessons learned.
Test and tune, baby.
Lessons learned. All right,
trusted partners. I want to say one more. Trusted partners. I highly recommend be very leery of startup companies. I work with a lot of venture capital companies, and be very leery of what they say. A lot of them, they are looking to add customers, not profit, and they will do anything to be able to go to more venture capital companies to get more money and show that they have more customers. And the venture capital companies will give them more money just because they have the customers, not the profit. When it comes time for them to create profit, then some of the funny stuff starts happening.
Awesome. Last question for each of you as we're coming up on time. For a new carrier trying to build out their ecosystem of partners, Sammy, where would you direct them to start?
If I was starting over today, I'm going to look for a fuel card. I'm going to look for it, like we talked about this earlier, a national tire account, a good company to lease on to, or weigh the options of forming my own authority. You got to get all your tools in place. Get a piece of paper, start writing down things, and start checking them out off as you go. You got to have a plan. As the old saying goes, plan your work and work your plan. And network. Get to talking to people. Talk to people that's got what you want. If you got a friend that's got 5 trucks, bug him. Ask away. If you've got if you got a guy that's been in trucking but never done anything, don't take his advice, or else he would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Take advice from the people that's got what you want.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, Sammy. Ditto.
Ditto. Same thing.
All right.
Perfectly said.
Well, I wanted to say,
and I don't mean to sound crude there. I'm just saying, a lot of people get in trucking and they're based on hopes and wishes. This right here is real deal stuff. You got to know your game plan.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. One more time, Sammy, Lloyd, Chad, Boblett. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. They're on all the socials. Come by our booth, the Triumph booth, 37301. Let's get you guys to win the cooler and check out all of our swag. Thank you guys so much for attending our Pro Talk today. Have a great rest of your show. Thanks, guys. Round of applause.